Hello everyone, welcome back to another spooky broadcast with your host, Raz. Tonight, we're going to be reading stories and bringing new ads, and we even have a couple of real-world ghost stories to tell you. Something sort of like a deep dive, but not quite. Just something to stir the imagination. Anyways, as always, if you are an author or you write stories, please get in contact with me if you would like to be featured on this channel. As for that, welcome, and let's get ready for another sinister broadcast. Breakfast is the most important battle of the day. War winter Wheaties are fortified with iron, grit, and a suspicious metallic sparkle. Made in factories working triple shifts for liberty. Each flake is oven-baked with the same spirit that built the ships of the United States Navy. Children who eat War winter Wheaties roar, increase morale. Sunny marching, unprovoked saluting. If your spoon begins vibrating, that's efficiency. War winter Wheaties pour victory into a bowl. War winter Wheaties now with 12% more patriotism. Hey there, folks. Does your rabbit lack pep? Is he loafing around the hutch like a draft dodger? Then pack those ears with Dr. Cottontail's atomic carrot concentrate. Formulated in a genuine laboratory with at least 3 beakers, this lively elixir combines concentrated carrot essence, vitamin something, and a hint of scientific sparkle. Just 1 spoonful, and your buddy will leap higher than radio antenna, chew with confidence, possibly vibrate at a frequency only dogs can hear. It glows with a pleasant orange hue, because if it didn't glow, how would you know it's modern? Dr. Cottontail's atomic carrot concentrate for rabbits who refuse to be ordinary animals. Not responsible for spontaneous jazz dancing. Hello, motoring public. Has your automobile begun weeping quietly in the driveway? Does it start only when addressed firmly? Then hustle on down to Professor Rattletrap's post-war motor emporium, where chrome shines brighter than common sense. We've got convertibles with more fins than a sardine convention, sedans that idle like they're thinking about it, coupes so sleek they refuse to answer questions. Every vehicle inspected by a man in coveralls who nods confidently at least once. Why buy ordinary when you can purchase a machine that roars like it remembers the 20s? Some of the models we got are the 1946 Thunder Hoof Deluxe, equipped with a dashboard containing at least 7 mysterious knobs, a speedometer that goes all the way to optimistic, upholstery stitched from materials we found nearby. Step on the accelerator and feel acceleration, wind, and mildly existing clarity. If the radio ain't playing swing music backwards, that's a premium wiring. We've also got the Mercury Miracle Economy Special. It runs on gasoline, determination, and possibly optimism. It features qualms so reflective you can reconsider your life choices while waiting at a signal. Starts on the first try. Eventually. And listen to this. For a limited time, we're offering the rattle trap guarantee. If it moves, it's a car. If it doesn't, we'll push. That's service. Folks, these automobiles are built with the same confidence that rebuilt half the world and the same brakes that rebuilt the other half. Come on down today. We're located between a feed store and that building everyone pretends is a warehouse. Professor Rattletrap's Motoring Emporium, where mileage is high and expectations are negotiable.
Not responsible for doors departing the vehicle. Do not exceed 45 miles per hour during emotional distress. Offer void during eclipses. They said it again today. Not to me. They thought I couldn't hear. The sound travels through vents, through cracks, through the little square in the door where the tray slides in. It travels. I was sitting right there when it happened. Red light off, microphone cold. No performance voice, just me. And I heard, "Is Raz scheduled tonight?" That's not my name. That's not my name. They say patients fixate on identities, invent them, build entire worlds around them. Maybe Raz is one of those. A character, a construct, a narrator. No. That tone again. Why does it happen automatically? Why does my spine straighten when I say that word? Why does the light... See? I didn't even start. And it's on. It reacts to that name. That's not my name. They slipped something under the door after dinner. Paper. Official paper. I wasn't supposed to see it. It got caught on the hinge. I could only read part of it. Patient. R-A-Z. The rest was folded. But I saw enough. That could mean anything. Initials, code, room design. It doesn't have to be. Good evening. Stop! Stop doing that. Who taught me that? I tried not speaking for a while. Just to see. Red light off. Room quiet. No hum. No expectation. It felt wrong. Like I was missing a cue. Like someone was out there waiting. They're listening right now. I can feel it. They want to see if I say it. If I claim it. If I lean into it. Raz. It gets brighter when I say it. That's conditioning. Positive reinforcement. They're trying to train me. Attach the name to the reward, the attention, the outlet. But attention implies an audience. Are you waiting for that name? Is that what brings you back? If I am, Raz. No, if I am. If I accept that, then this room becomes something else. This microphone becomes something else. This isn't monitoring. It's broadcast. That's not my name. It can't be. Because if it is, then I know what comes next. And I'm not ready to say it. Anyways, let's begin. Tree-lined property. The cabin wasn't remote. That's what made it worse. It sat at the edge of a new development. Half-built luxury homes on one side, untouched forest on the other. Investors bought the land cheap and clear-cut everything but a strip of old growth they claimed was aesthetic value. The tree line looked decorative. It wasn't. We were a security crew, adults only, watching equipment overnight after 3 contractors vanished in 2 weeks. No blood found, no tracks, just hard hats and tool belts left in neat piles near the woods. The developers assumed sabotage. We assumed meth heads. We were wrong. It started with the smell. Rotting pine and copper, drifting in waves from the tree line after midnight. The wind didn't carry it. It moved against the breeze, seeping over dirt lots and half-framed houses like something searching. We kept the floodlights on. The forest didn't care. At 1:13, the motion sensors lit up along the boundary. Nothing visible. But the trees were moving. Not swaying, leaning. Every trunk along the border angled inward toward the development, like spectators pressing against the fence. Then one snapped. Not from wind. From pressure applied slowly until the wood gave way. We formed up by the equipment yard. Rifles up, flashlights cutting hard lines into the dark. That's when it stepped out. Not charging, not prowling, walking. It had to duck slightly to clear the remaining trees, antlers catching and dragging loose bark as it passed. Its body was skeletal, but powerful. Muscles stretched tight over bone, skin pale and split in places where it had outgrown itself. Its chest rose and fell too slowly, like it didn't need air. It crossed from the forest to the construction site in 3 strides, and smiled. We fired immediately. Rounds tore into it, punching holes through the shoulder and abdomen. It staggered once, more from physics than pain. Then it adjusted. The next burst hit where it had been, not where it moved. It was learning our rhythm. One of the crew broke formation and ran toward a half-finished house. The creature did not sprint. It lunged, covering 30 feet in a single bound, landing on him with enough force to crater the dirt. It pinned him with one hand and bent low. We heard the spine go first. Then it stood, dragging the body by the legs like excess weight, and threw it into the frame of the house, wood shattering. The rest of us kept firing. It kept advancing. Floodlights exploded one by one as it moved past them, smashing poles with a casual backhand. Darkness swallowed the development in chunks. In muzzle flashes, we saw more of it. Scars carved deep into its torso, lines intersecting in deliberate patterns, some filled with dried black blood, some fresh. antlers decorated in fragments of cloth, torn from vests and jackets, trophies. It wasn't hunting randomly. It was clearing territory. We were encroachment. We fell back to the security trailer. Bad move. Confined space. It ripped the door off the hinges and stepped inside, filling the entire entryway. Up close, its face was worse. Jaw unhinged slightly, lips cracked and peeled back, teeth uneven and too many. Its eyes weren't animal. They were calculating. It reached forward and grabbed my rifle. The metal frosted instantly, skin sticking to it. I let go before it took my hands with it. It leaned close enough that I could feel the cold radiating from its chest cavity. Inside, between its ribs, something moved. Not organs, shapes, shifting, as if pieces of others had never fully settled. It could have killed me. Instead, it shoved me backward and stepped out of the trailer. It turned toward the forest and gave a low, vibrating sound. Not a roar, not a growl. A claim. Then it walked back across the development, disappearing into the trees. The forest straightened behind it. By morning, every heavy piece of machinery had been toppled. Concrete forms smashed. Support beams twisted. The investors pulled out within the week. Official explanation: extremist vandalism. The tree line remains untouched now. Properties on that edge don't sell. Because at night, if you stand close enough to the trees, you can hear something pacing just inside of the dark. Not hunting. Guarding. Waiting for the next attempt to cross the line. The Monkey's Paw, based on the 1902 tale by W. W. Jacobs, A Family's Wishes and the Price They Pay. The White family lived in a cozy country cottage, a simple, contented folk with steady routine and warm hearth. One evening, an old army friend, Sergeant Major Morris, arrived for tea. He had stories from far lands, deserts, jungles, distant bazaars, and among his belongings, he carried something small and wrapped in cloth. Unwrapping it, he revealed a dried, shriveled monkey's paw. "It brings 3 wishes," he said, his voice dry, weary. Mr. White laughed gently. "Magic wishes," he said. "I'd like that." But the sergeant's expression was grim. "Be careful," he warned. "This thing, it's dangerous. It twists things. It gets its wishes, but at a price." Mr. White, half in jest, wished aloud for £200, enough to pay off the mortgage. Nothing happened that night. But the next day, a messenger arrived from a factory where the White's son Herbert worked. Mr. White was offered compensation, £200, because Herbert had been killed in a terrible machine accident. The money was given, but the grief was intolerable. Mrs. White's sorrow twisted into desperate longing. She begged her husband to use the second wish to bring Herbert back. Hands shaking, voice trembling, Mr. White wished, and the house fell silent. An hour later, there came a faint, persistent knock at the door. The sound was slow, hesitant, but unmistakable. Mrs. White raced for the door, wild with hope, but Mr. White felt dread coil in his stomach. He raised the monkey's paw. With unsteady breath, he whispered the third and final wish. The knocking ceased. Silence. Absolute. The horror of what might have stood on the other side lingered far longer than the knock itself. The Damned Thing, based on Ambrose Bierce's 1893 tale, A Hunt for Something Invisible. In the dry hills of Texas, young hunters gathered around campfires as the sun set and shadows crept across the high plains. Among them was Hugh Morgan, serious, sharp-eyed, and uneasy. He spoke of strange tracks in the dust, prints that faded abruptly, as though cloven hooved, but vanishing mid-stride. A rustling sound without wind, a buzzing drone like insects, except too deep, too alive. The men laughed at first, joking about desert spirits, but Hugh's voice was firm. One morning, while hunting deer on a wide stretch of open plateau, Hugh stopped suddenly. He pointed. No animal moved in the brush. Nothing stirred. Yet something was there. Something unseen. He raised his rifle. Then, a flash. A buzzing like a swarm. The air itself seemed to vibrate. Before the others could react, Hugh fell. No bullet, no visible wound. Only his eyes, wide with terror, fixed on something the others could not see. The men were shaken, but determined to find out what had struck their friend. They scoured the ground, following the odd tracks that faded like whorls in the sand. Then they found the evidence. Scraped stones with no claw marks, as though something incredibly hard and smooth had ground against them. Circle-shaped impressions on the earth, and a strange metallic smell that lingered in the heat. One hunter, brave enough to the point of folly, tried to lure the invisible creature out by whistling loudly. Nothing appeared. But when the whistle stopped, the air felt heavier, denser. Something moved. Something unseen. The hunter's face blanked, eyes starting. He backed away slowly. Then he sprinted. It was then the others heard it. A low, humming buzz that grew sharp and piercing, like thousands of tiny wings beating together, yet no wings were visible. Panic spread among the group. They fled down the hillside, the buzzing chasing them like heat on bare skin. At the camp, as dusk deepened into night, they lit a bonfire and swore to never speak of what they had seen, or rather, what they had not seen. An invisible force, a creature not of sight, but of terror. Because sometimes the most frightening thing isn't what you can see. It's what you know is watching. The House on Lindley Street. The Bridgeport Poltergeist. In 1974, on an ordinary tree-lined street in Bridgeport, Connecticut, something extraordinary and terrifying erupted inside of a modest little house that would soon become one of the most talked about paranormal cases in American history. This is not a ghost story. This is the tale of a family, a house, and the forces no one could easily explain. The Goodwin family moves in. It began decades earlier, long before cameras, internet theories, or ghost hunting shows. In 1960, Gerald and Laura Goodwin excited to start a new chapter in their lives, bought a humble bungalow on Lindley Street. They hoped for peace. A few years later, tragedy struck. Their young son, Gerald Jr., who suffered from cerebral palsy, died at only 6 years old. The grief was immense, a wound that would never truly heal. A few years after their son's death, the Goodins adopted a girl named Marcia, a bright, quiet child with a mysterious background and a spirit all her own. At first, life seemed ordinary, until things began to change. The first strange sounds. At first, the disturbances were subtle. Strange knocking noises at night, rhythmic pounding that seemed to come from inside the walls, though no one was near them. Gerald first thought it might be kids playing tricks, but soon there was no denying that something was wrong. Despite inspections by building officials, plumbers, and even the fire department, no logical source was ever found. As the years went by, the odd events grew in frequency and intensity. Objects moved on their own, doors slammed, and something in the house seemed to have a will of its own. November 1974, when it all exploded. Then came November 1974, the month everything changed forever. Neighbors began noticing strange lights flickering through the windows. At night, people swore they saw furniture being thrown about inside, tables sliding across rooms, chairs levitating, and the drawers crashing open and shut. Word spread like wildfire. Soon hundreds, then thousands of curious onlookers gathered outside the small house on Lindley Street, watching in awe and fear as the strange activity continued. This spectacle wasn't just hearsay. Local police officers and firefighters were called in. Trained professionals, accustomed to chaos. Yet what they saw seemed to defy explanation. Some swore they watched televisions lift off shelves on their own. Others saw refrigerators slide across the room, and objects fly through the air without any visible hands guiding them. One officer remembered walking into the living room only to see the furniture move while their backs were turned. A sight that made even the lifelong skeptics uneasy. Priests, experts, and a crowd in the street. With the word spreading nationwide, the event became more than a local oddity. It became a media sensation. Reporters from far and wide showed up, cameras in hand, desperate to capture a glimpse of something inexplicable. Clergy were even called to bless the home. Holy water splashing, prayers echoing through the rooms, but if anything, the activity only seemed to intensify. Paranormal investigators also made their way to Lindley Street, including the famed demonologist Ed and Lorraine Warren, who would later claim that this was one of the most well-documented poltergeist cases they had ever encountered. Thousands stood in the street day after day, fascinated, frightened, and unable to look away. The twist. Hoax or something more? But as bizarre as the events were, skeptics, and ultimately even local authorities, believed they found the shocking truth. Marcia herself might have been orchestrating much of the chaos. After weeks of ongoing disturbances, someone in the house saw the young girl deliberately causing one of the events. Marcia confessed to faking some of the phenomena, leading authorities to officially dismissing the haunting as a hoax. The headlines changed from ghostly wonder to embarrassment, and the frenzy quickly faded. But here's the part that still keeps ghost hunters and believers awake at night. Even after the official closure of the case, Many witnesses insisted that the strange things continued. Unexplained movement, odd sounds, shadows flickering in the corners, long after the media left. Some say the confession was a cover-up. Others believe something real, something unseen, lurked in those walls all along. Something no one could ever fully understand. So what is it? A clever hoax? A child craving attention? Or something truly supernatural that lasered the attention of thousands of witnesses, from everyday neighbors to seasoned professionals? To this day, the Lindley Street poltergeist case remains one of the most mysterious and debated hauntings in American history. A chilling chapter of unexplained events that refuse to be forgotten. The real Fairfield Hills haunting. Fairfield Hills State Hospital was once one of Connecticut's largest psychiatric institutions. It opened in the early 1930s and operated until 1995, spanning more than 60 years of psychiatric care, evolving treatments, and shifting public perception. During its operation, Fairfield Hills served thousands of patients. At its peak, the hospital's population grew to accommodate more than 4,000 individuals suffering from various mental illnesses, supported by dozens of doctors, nurses, and staff. Like many state psychiatric hospitals of the era, Fairfield Hills was associated with treatments that later generations would view as harsh or inhumane. These included electroconvulsive therapy, hydrotherapy, insulin shock therapy, and, in some cases, psychosurgery. The facility grappled with self-deletion, unexplained deaths, and distress among patients. Realities that were part of institutional life in large psychiatric hospitals of the 20th century. By the later decades of the 20th century, attitudes in mental health care had shifted away from long-term institutionalization and toward outpatient and community-based treatments. As a result, Fairfield Hills experienced declining patient numbers and eventually closure. In December 1995, the state officially shut down the hospitals and transferred remaining patients to other facilities. After closing, the sprawling campus of Fairfield Hills was largely empty. Over time, the buildings, a complex of more than a dozen structures, fell into disrepair. Many windows became broken, walls began to decay, and vegetation crept over the exterior brickwork. Despite its official closure, Fairfield Hills quickly became the site of fascination for urban explorers and amateur paranormal investigators. Its atmosphere, shaped by vacant corridors, rusted lockers, and silent wards, contributed to its reputation as one of Connecticut's most notorious haunted locations. The property even attracted mainstream media attention. It was featured in an episode of MTV's Fear and used as a filming location for the 1996 movie Sleepers, demonstrating its cinematic, eerie aesthetic. Although there is no definitive evidence proving the supernatural, numerous reports from visitors and paranormal enthusiasts describing strange occurrences at Fairfield Hills. These are among the most commonly mentioned phenomena. People have claimed to hear voices, moans, and unexplained footsteps echoing through the empty hallways. Some accounts described hearing what sounds like voices originating from inside sealed buildings or underground areas. Visitors and photographers have reported seeing shadow figures or brief flashes of movement inside windows or corridors where no one should be present. One reoccurring element of local folklore is the sighting of a lady in white, described as a petite figure appearing in the upper windows and sometimes perceived with a faint glow around her. Some ghost hunters and self-identified witnesses describe sudden drops in temperature in certain areas, particularly near older buildings or near the locations of former wards. There have been claims of flickering lights or colored glows observed from the windows after dark, long after the campus lights were shut off. Fairfield Hills once contained a network of underground tunnels connecting buildings. These tunnels have since been sealed off for safety, but they became a focal point of paranormal interest. Stories from explorers describe hearing noises from below ground, footsteps, voices, and unexplained sounds, even when no one was present above. Unlike some locations where a specific ghost story is tied to one person, the mythology of Fairfield Hills is rooted in the history of the institution itself. The combination of large numbers of patients, historical treatments that affected the mind and body, self-deletion and more self-deletion, long periods of abandonment, has created a fertile environment for speculation and legend. Over time, these reports have been shared among local lore, paranormal forums, ghost hunting communities, and social media. Many describe the sensations of being watched, unexplained sounds, or encounters they cannot otherwise explain. Today, much of Fairfield Hills campus is overseen by the town of Newtown. Some buildings have been repurposed for municipal offices, community facilities, and even a brewery. However, the other buildings remain boarded up and unused due to decay and safety concerns. Underground tunnels, once used to transport patients or equipment, have been mostly closed off or filled in for safety reasons, though tales of phenomena associated with them persist online. Local law enforcement and security patrol portions of the grounds to discourage trespassing, especially at night. No official agency recognizes undead spirits or supernatural presence at Fairfield Hills. Nevertheless, the perception of its haunting arises from the hospital's long, difficult history, its abandonment and decay, the eerie architecture of the vacant wards, and the volume of reported experiences from visitors and ghost enthusiasts. For many, the stories are less about disproving the paranormal and more about feeling the lingering emotional weight of a place shaped by suffering, isolation, and memory. Fairfield Hills Hospital is a real place with a real history, psychiatric treatment, institutional life, closure, and decades of decay. Whether one attributes the reported voices, figures, and sensations to the supernatural, the power of suggestion, or the emotional imprint of history, these reports have made Fairfield Hills one of Connecticut's most widely discussed haunted locales. Hello everyone, and thank you for tuning in for this week's episode of the Sinister Broadcast. I want to thank you all for following along for as long as you have and supporting the efforts and the things and other crap I make on this channel. And I would also like to invite you to like, share, comment, subscribe to the channel so that you can see the other stuff I have done and be there when I deliver new content. Again, thank you for sticking with me, and I hope you enjoyed tonight's broadcast. I look forward to seeing you guys again. Good night, my creepy little nightmares, and sleep well.
Big